My inclination is to say that I'm a metalsmith because that was where my formal education lies. But I see kind of community engagement and social practice work as sort of also a secondary or like tertiary medium for me. I do quite a bit of other things, writing, sculptural works, photography, community work. Yeah, so I guess metals and then a lot of other things from there. I would say that I don't just sit down and say, I'm gonna be creative. It's just sort of like always spinning and always working in my brain. You know, all these different ideas are kind of all happening at the same time. It's just sort of like every second I'm moving through my day, ideas are happening or I'm processing through something. And my studio is really a place where I can be quiet with those ideas and be experimental. I guess for me, whatever is happening in here is like a tangible or visible way to like process everything that's happening elsewhere. Space for an artist or creative person, I feel like is part of the deal. I've lived in spaces where there is not enough room to have this type of workshop space or this type of experimental space. And it is really difficult to do the work and to, you know, kind of explore the ideas you need to explore. So I feel like without a dedicated space, whether that's shared or solo, it's pretty close to impossible to really do the work that you need to do. Without space, I don't think I could be doing what I'm doing. I'd have to probably make different work. The work that I'm doing is on surface very architecturally driven. It's exploring forms and shapes that you would see in some of the spaces that I'm occupying outside of my studio. But it's also looking at sort of the psychology of architecture and how we occupy space and memory and our memories of spaces. Ever since I was in school, I really loved soldering. And soldering for me is usually soldering hollow forms or some kind of form together. It's a kind of an integral part of metalworking, but it's one of the stages that I really enjoy the most because it's super precise. You have these little tiny solder chips that you have to very delicately balance on the edge of a little teeny wire or the edge of a sheet of metal. And the art of not getting them to bounce off while you're heating up the metal and it's getting ready to flow has been like almost like a dance performance for me. I mean, it's really just like identifying the stages of how the metal heats up and where you watch how the flux evolves as you're heating it up and it gets to a certain point and then you can narrow your torch in and solder something. I guess I really love that metal is typically so hard and so cold and so challenging to work with, but when you get with a torch, it really makes working with metal seem more fluid and more, I don't know, just I guess easier to work with than just kind of hand tools. I had a little internship in high school working in a mechanic shop, and I really loved just like the materiality of being in this shop and like getting messy and being able to like kind of just experiment with torches and, you know, all these different like hand tools. And I was rebuilding starters and for like a fleet of trucks that would come into this mechanic shop, and so there was something about just the ability to like shape metal that was really interesting to me, or to work with such a hard material. The opportunities that Boise, and particularly like Idaho at large, but mainly Boise, has given me has been the whole, I think, impetus for where I'm at right now. I mean, it's such a safe environment to experiment and to be kind of weird or try new things, and ultimately it's a super supportive place, super supportive community. The stakes are a little bit lower. I couldn't basically live without this. It's such a like a form of my being that it's sort of just inherent to who I am and what I do. Everything that I'm doing right now, whether it's running the Atlanta School or cultural sites at the city of Boise or writing for various arts magazines or working in my studio, like they're kind of one and the same, and it's sort of all in which my life is made up of. I do it because I can't not do it.